So, I like to share something about the 6 sense bases. So there is the world we live in. Of course, there's the world out there, but the world we live in is created these 6 sense bases. We have the five external sense bases. That's the eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, the body, and then the mind. That's an internal sense base. So everything we create as a human being is through these 6 sense bases. That's merely the world we live in is created by this one, taking sense impressions. So we take sense impressions from the eye, the ear. The eye sees form, the ear hears sound, the nose smells, the tongue tastes, the body, tactile sensations and touches, and with the mind, ideation, ideas. So this is exactly the world we live in. So this is the process we need to understand. And this process happens so fast. I'm sure we all can relate to that. But how do we understand? So the Buddha's teachings, there are many suttas which have described this process with the 6 sense bases. The eye sees a form and the eye consciousness arises. So there are 6 internal sense bases and 6 external sense bases. The internal sense bases being the eye, the ear, the actual eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind. And the external ones are the form. Eye needs to see the form, the ear needs to hear sound, the nose smells, and the tongue tastes, and the body needs the touch. And the mind, we create ideas in the mind. And then when the eye sees the object, eye consciousness arises. So there are these 6 classes of consciousness pertaining to these 6 sense bases. So then the eye sees a form, eye consciousness arises. Each consciousness, that's the vijnana, has its own range. The eye consciousness can't hear. The ear consciousness can't taste. So there are 6 classes of consciousness to go with these 6 sense bases. So the bringing these 3 things together is the contact that's called the sense impingement. So these 3 things come together. The eye, the form, the external form, and the eye consciousness coming together, that creates the sense impingement. And this sense impingement, based on these 6, the sense impingement, the 3 coming together, the feeling is formed. And conditioned to the feeling, the tanha, the craving, is formed. So this is a kind of a short version of everything Buddha teaches is dependent origination. In the sense, that's the beauty of Buddha's teachings. Everything is arising, depending on something else. Everything arises. That's the dependent. That's what's called the hetupaccaya dhamma. That's unique to Buddha's teachings. Everything arises because of conditions. When the causes and conditions come together. If this exists, if the conditions are there, then if X exists, then Y come to be. When X disappears, Y disappears. So everything is dependently arisen. So that's why the meeting of the 3, the eye, the external form, the eye consciousness, the coming together, the impingements, the sense impingement, that's when the feeling arises. And when the feeling arises, then there's the craving for it, depending on our condition. According to our condition, being. It could be based on our karma, past karma, or being born into this life, our conditioning, the family, the country, the culture, the religion. Depending on all those, the contact is based on that. And this this contact that comes together is an ignorant contact. That's when we need to use the wise reflection. So I can explain what's meant by that wise reflection. When that contact happens, the three signatars, the three characteristics of existence, anicca, dukkha, anatta, that is impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and not self. So this is to learn these three characteristics, it's good to understand this process. So the sense contact, the three coming together, the sense impingement that arise is born of ignorance, because we don't see it as impermanent, unsatisfactory, and not self. It's like if you're holding a stick. Imagine we hold a stick from one end, and if there's another end to the stick, we call, I'm holding a stick, because we can see an end to this stick. So something exists because there's an end to this stick. But if there is no end to this stick, there's nothing to hold, isn't it? At that contact point, we see it as we are holding a stick, because this process takes place so fast. It gives us this false impression of permanence. That's what we are accustomed to, that's our conditioning, that's what our psyche is quite used to this scenario, because we are holding a stick all the time. Because we are holding with one end and the other end exists. Therefore, we call, there is a stick, I'm holding a stick. But if this stick is disappearing, imagine the other end of the stick is getting shorter, 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 shorter. And there's nothing to hold then. That is the process we need to see to understand this impermanence. And that is through wisely reflecting how things arise. We see something, we immediately recognize that's the food I ate 6 months ago or whatever. Take your own examples, and then we remember the taste, and we remember the whole story that relates to that particular food that we saw on the table. All the old history comes to the mind. It comes flooding through. We haven't even tasted this food. We haven't even touched this food. But it's merely seeing this food on the table. There's a lot of stuff going on in the mind, relating it to the past experiences. So that's where the sense impingement happens, and then then what happens is then the nama rupa is created, name and form, and the consciousness gets established. That's when the stick, that's when we are holding a stick. So then we feel I exist. First, the I, we think that the I belongs to me. And then when the consciousness gets established in that way, holding this stick, I am, I exist. The ownership of the I, then the feeling, by the time the consciousness has established in this story relating to this food, I do exist. So I have already created the story. I'm going to eat this, it'll be the same as before. We haven't even touched the food. But the reality will be, tasting this food, it must be awful, So then the dukkha arises, because we have already established the consciousness, we have the nama rupa is formed, and we have created this story, we have bought into this story, and we are living this story now. So dukkha arises. So this is the process that we need to observe as it happens. And in meditation, we can take our own examples and see how disappointed we were and how it led to an argument because of this disappointment, because that feeling that we were accustomed to, the old feeling, was never met with the present object. And that creates a lot of dukkha. Everything goes pear-shaped. So this is how we need to understand the 5 khandhas, the 6 sense bases, our existence, how our existence is created, the world we live in. The world we live in is entirely in our hands, so to speak. Because if we understand this process, we can do something about it. Yes? We can. We don't have to follow this, because the feelings are compared to a water bubble. It's like when the rain hits the water puddle, it creates a bubble of water, it disappears. There are thousands and thousands of bubbles of water created when it rains, isn't it, in the water puddle. So the feelings are like that. That's how impermanent the feeling aggregate is. Then when you take the form aggregate, of course, we know the impermanence of that, getting old. But the feeling aggregate, seeing how impermanent this feeling aggregate is, when we take one bite of food, we enjoy it, so it's died, the consciousness died with the feeling. And we like to recreate it, so we eat another bite, another bite, another bite. I'm not saying, Buddha didn't say don't eat. It's just understanding the process. That's why it's through our own living experiences we can understand this existence very well, and we can work it out how not to create dukkha, how tanha is created. So that the consciousness gets established, then there is I exist, and then the next thing we try to do is we try to own it, yeah? Then there is this ownership. There must be, the self. There is somebody, owning it. This belongs to me, and that's where wars happen because of this, yes? Then the possessiveness happens, we have to protect it. Once we feel it's our ownership, it belongs to us, then we go to war to protect our belongings. It's not that, I'm not saying, Buddha didn't say don't protect your belongings, but see the process. So the more we cling to, the more we do it, the more the dukkha. We do have to live the life, we do have to have possessions, we have to have the family, we have to have the house, the job, everything. But how much we cling to, whether we invest so much, my happiness depends on having this car. It's to see the clinginess and how much we hold on to this feeling and how much we chase these feelings, and seeing the danger of it. Once we know this process, we can see the danger of following this process. So that's how the 5 aggregates come into being, because the consciousness wants to have this feeling, the form, the feeling, the perception, the mental volitional formations, the consciousness. It wants to recreate it. Not knowing the impermanence and the unsatisfactory and not self-nature, we are trying to recreate it. And then we are born into these 5 khandhas, and then to enjoy these, whether it's food or music or whatever, we need these sense bases, isn't it? We need the mouth to eat, we need the eye to see, we need the ear to listen, So the six sense bases are formed. That's how we come into being. With the five khandhas, the four elements come together, the five khandhas, these six sense bases, then we call it I exist. Because of this, how quickly it so happens so quickly, the mind is so quick. We can all relate to that. And we don't see that impermanence in our day-to-day life. That's why it's very good example, this holding a stick. When the consciousness gets established, when the name and form, the nama rupa is formed, it gives us the sense that I'm holding this stick, which is the whole process. And if the stick doesn't exist, there's nothing to hold. Because there are two ends to the stick only, we call there is a stick. But if there is no end, there's nothing to hold. And this is how we can understand these anicca, dukkha, anatta, the three characteristics, the three signatas, which is very important in Buddha's teachings. So in meditation, we can use these our day-to-day examples to understand this process. Take our own examples. See, we start with if we have an agreeable object, we start with a pleasant feeling. Yes, I mean, we all know we have been living here, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 or 70, whatever years we have been living. We know how much we have gone through in life, how things have changed so much. So, the aging process. Things were very different when we were young. The taste, the smell, the hearing, the seeing. We need glasses now. We were not wearing glasses. Maybe 30, 40 years ago, I don't know, or 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago. So this aging process, so that happens, and we like to have that same pleasant feeling because it was an agreeable object before. The body or whatever was an agreeable object because it worked very well as a young body. But as we get older, of course, we know ones who have aged, well, we are all aging, maybe not as some older than the others, but as we get older, we see this aging process and how we get the anger arise because that pleasant feeling cannot be maintained. No pleasant feeling can be maintained because that's the nature of the pleasant feeling. That's due to the changing nature. It changes. The pleasant feeling is not a pleasant feeling anymore because of this changing nature. And that's the true nature of the pleasant feelings. And if it's an unpleasant feeling, because there are three kinds of feelings, the pleasant feeling, the unpleasant feeling, the neutral feeling. With the unpleasant feeling, we start with the unpleasant feeling, it ends with the unpleasant feeling. There's nothing you can do. It is dukkha, starting with unpleasant. Oh, I don't want it. But there's nothing you can do. Because we constantly divide things into like, dislike. That's our nature, yes? We take a position. Either we like, we don't like, we agree, we disagree. And that's when everything starts from there. Everything has this polarity, and we label them, we box them, and we hold on to the pleasant feelings. We try to run away or chase the unpleasant feelings. But everything ends up as dukkha, isn't it? Even the pleasant feeling ends up as dukkha because we can't maintain that pleasant feeling. It changes, and that's why we are trying to recreate it. So that's the dukkha of this existence. It's just to understand it. It's not to make us feel hopelessness or feel depressed. It's just to understand it. This is what I'm doing. Open our eyes, what is happening here, the reality, the true nature. Then we have the neutral feeling. The neutral feeling is neither pleasant nor unpleasant. It's not felt, but it's born out of, because the pleasant feeling is born out of greed, the unpleasant feeling is born out of hatred, and the neutral feeling is born out of delusion. It's the neutral feeling is we construct the constructions we make. We as human beings we create children, so the children are possessions. Some feel we feel they are possessions, and when the child doesn't do well, how sad one feels. Yes, because it's a construction we made through ignorance. We have owned it, and this is the sankhara dukkhata. These are the three dukkatas: the viparinama dukkhata, dukkha dukkhata, and the sankhara dukkhata is the neutral feeling. We feel that it belongs to us, and no construction can give us happiness, isn't it? It's a construction. How if things come together, they have to fall apart. How can anything that comes together out of components can give us happiness? Because we are constantly chasing happiness in the wrong place. And that's children. And when it comes to the construction, the biggest construction is our own body, yes? And that really lets us down, as we get older, falling sick, suddenly the organ doesn't work, and that's huge disappointment. So these constructions, we can't rely on them. So that's why the neutral feeling, because we don't feel it, because we can sit on a chair, it's neither comfortable or uncomfortable. It's just, ordinary. But that neutrality relates only to that chair. And if you see a chair a bit more comfortable than that, you'll immediately go for that, yes? So that's the nature of this neutral feeling. We are sitting on it, not knowing exactly what it is, really. It's a construction, but most of our feelings are based on neutral feelings, because there's delusion. We are always in delusion. Anger and greed and hatred come and go, yes? Both can't exist at the same time. If there's anger, there's no greed. If there's greed, there's no anger. But delusion is there all the time. So this is the nature of these feelings. And one can meditate on these feelings, how we have chased these feelings, how disappointed we have become chasing these feelings, taking our day-to-day examples, and investigate it, examine it, how not understanding the true nature of this aggregate, the feeling aggregate, how dukkha was created. Because the feeling, the tanha arose, and from that point, there's the upadana, the clinging, and then we become, and everything else is, old age, sickness and death, isn't it? It's once we become, it goes only in one direction. It has to change. It has to get old or has to get sick. And it's good to contemplate our existence in this way, how it came to be and how things arise in our mind, because everything has the arising and ceasing nature. And that's why it's dependently arisen Dhamma. This Dhamma is always dependently arisen Dhamma. And just to recognize this arising and ceasing nature. And if you remember the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, that's the first discourse Buddha expounded to the 5 ascetics. And when Venerable Kondanja is the first one to enter the stream, and what it says is Yankinchi samudaya dhammang sabbang tang nirodha dhammanti. That is, he understood that everything arise and cease. That's all he understood at that time to enter the stream. So it sounds very simple, I know, to say it. I can say it in one breath, But to notice it in oneself, that's why this is an experiential teaching. It's seeing it and knowing it. Because then only the defilements can be eradicated from our minds. The consciousness can be cleansed, the pure consciousness can arise. It's just by understanding this nature and seeing it arise and cease in our own minds, and to see things as they are. Because from what I gather, for an arahant, I'm just saying what the book says, the consciousness is pure consciousness, it's mere awareness of seeing something. The pure consciousness doesn't create the Dhamma Rupa and it doesn't get established. So the untrained mind creates the Nama Rupa and the consciousness gets established either in the name, the form, the perception, or the volitional formations, or the consciousness. It gets established. Once it gets established, the whole show starts, It's a magic show, isn't it? We are watching the whole show, going right in front of us. So this is the existence, this is our true nature. And we can contemplate and reflect on the arising of feelings, especially maybe you went out to get some food, or see how feelings arose and how we got caught to it, not seeing the impermanent nature and the unsatisfactory and not self nature doesn't arise in us. We need to train our minds to see it in that way. Our perceptions are all the wrong, isn't it? Because the hair on the head is beautiful, but hair on the soup is yucky. Can't be right, isn't it? The same hair. Which perception is correct? So can you see how the perception is tricking us all the time? So this is why we have the wrong perception in seeing things when our contact, the sense impingement, is born out of ignorance. We haven't trained the mind to see it with true nature. And that's what we are trying to understand and see this process. And the more we can see this process, the life can be lived in a peaceful way. Feelings arise, we eat. It's not that Buddha didn't say don't eat, don't have possessions. No, we do need them. Like, when you apply for a job, take this example, apply for the job. As soon as you apply for the job is yours, yes? I haven't even gone to an interview. But as soon as the application is put in, the mind is working, we have already planned. So that's how we see things. We can't see that nature. A child is born, the whole child's future is planned. How true these plans are. But it's not that planning is not good, but of course we had to plan, and you had to plan to come here, you had to buy a ticket, or I don't know, do whatever. There is some planning, but there's another kind of planning which we plan and we attach to it and we carry it with us, like applying for the job, and then job is mine, I'm walking for the next 2 weeks till you get to know that the job is gone. Oh, thorough disappointment. Somebody else has been appointed for the job, then only it's not mine, How come? I thought it was mine. That's how foolish we are, yeah? That's the way we exist. So just reflect on these things in your own reflective, contemplative way, and take our own examples. I'm sure we have oodles and oodles of examples, in day-to-day life, and see how dukkha was created around this feeling aspect, the aggregate, feeling aggregate.